Hello, teen confirmation families. Welcome to the recording of our 2024-2025 parent information sessions. I'm hoping that you're watching this just to remind yourself of a couple of things that you may have missed because we went pretty quickly during those sessions. But if you were unable to make either one of the two sessions, I get it. Life does happen, so hopefully this will give you some of the information that you need. Um, Sans the questions that you would have asked, but hopefully you can ask those either before or after a future class from either, or ask either me or Alan. So let us begin. Let us begin in prayer in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you. Thank you for giving us another opportunity to share faith together as a faith community. We ask that you give us the graces we need to help these teens grow closer to you. That is the real sole purpose of our faith, is to grow closer to you and to learn how to love as a result of that. We ask that you give us those graces to make that movement this year, to really make it a year where we start to understand what the faith is truly all about, and how we can best live it out, and become the best versions of ourselves. And we ask this in your holy name. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, folks, let us go. So I'm going to start just by quickly reviewing the agenda. So I'm going to talk about us a little bit, ask you a couple of questions. Then we're going to talk about why we're here for those of you that are returning from last year or have had children in another one of our programs. Some of this will be familiar. So will the challenges and overcoming the challenges. Those that are new to our programs, this will probably not be familiar, and may be quite eye-opening. So hopefully you're getting a lot of value out of some of the data we're going to present here, which kind of explains why we run our programs the way we do. In which case, then we're talking about why we run our programs the way we do, the program overview. We're talking about a couple of changes that we've made as a result of the input that we receive from participants in the program, whether it be parents or teens. And then normally we would go over questions, but we can't do that in a recording. So we'll be able to stop right there. And if you have questions, feel free to contact Alan or I at any time, quite frankly, and certainly before and after any class or session, that would be fine. So I am Chris Morris. I'm the Director of Faith Formation at Holy Family. So I'm responsible for all of the faith formation programs that we have, whether it be our sacramental preparation programs like this one, or First Communion, or OCIA. But we have another 20 or so programs that are geared towards people in different stages in life, on different elements of their faith journey. We try to have enough variety so that we can satisfy the needs of anyone, whether you've been Catholic for 5 minutes or 50 years. Makes no difference. We hope to satisfy that need. So if you're not aware of some of those other programs, I'd love to be able to walk you through them, because you never know what might be right for you. But anyway, been here about 7 years now. 7 years at Holy Family since we moved to Orange. I've been the Faith Formation Director here for 3 years now. This is not my career. I would never have told you I would be doing this, even 5 or 6 years ago. But here I am. God works in mysterious ways. I had a 30-year career in corporate America that I thought I was quite satisfied with, only to find out that maybe I wasn't. Okay. And very late in life, I went back and got my master's in theology, and have not turned back, and love the ability to work for the church and work with you and explore the faith and talk about the faith, and learn about the faith every day. So that's me. I have been running this program for several years, even before I was the Faith Formation Director. But this year, Alan Santa Isabel will be running it. We're very pleased to have Alan with us. Alan is now our full-time coordinator of youth and young adult ministry. So he covers everyone from, say the age of 10 or so up into young families, and really are going to try to focus and hone in our programs and support, faith support, for that group. It's a pretty wide-ranging group. But again, we really wanted to dedicate someone specifically in those areas. We have some strong programs. We believe this program is strong. We believe our young adult ministry is very strong. But we have holes. How do you get from this program to the young adults? You're a young adult, now you're married and you're thinking kids or have kids, and that's a whole different type of faith challenge. How do you support that? So Alan is going to be doing that, and you're going to love working with him. He is a passionate believer in the faith, and also just a warm and very pastoral guy. So I think it's going to be a great fit for Holy Family and a great fit for our programs. So with that, you know us, okay? Let me give you a couple of questions that I want you to answer. And this is something that parents, if you're watching this by yourself, you can watch this with your teens, okay? This information is for them as well, because that it may surprise them and it may resonate with them. But I'd like you to start off by just thinking, would you like your teens, or if you are a teen, would you like yourself to feel like you're flourishing, really in all aspects of life, school, home, physical, mental health, wellness. Again, if you're a parent, do you want to see your teen flourish in those areas? If you're a teen, do you want to flourish in those areas? And at this point, all your hands should be raised. Okay. We all want to see those we love flourish. Okay. And this is hugely important in today's day and age. And the second question is much like the first, just a little bit different. Would you like your teen, or would you yourself like to actually view your life as valuable and worthwhile? And again, everyone's hand should be raised here. These are questions that, of course, you want to be flourishing. Of course, you want to be able to view your life as valuable and worthwhile. Who wouldn't? Well, the reality is, in this generation, Gen Z, most, if not all, of the young men and women in this program are members of Gen Z. In this day and age, the problem we have is that Gen Z is facing the highest degrees, and it's not even close. Okay, it's so when I say the highest, it's not like it's a little bit higher than the millennials, or a little bit higher than Gen X, or a little bit higher than baby boomers. It's orders of magnitude higher degrees of mental health issues that stem primarily from what is an astounding finding, that 50% of Gen Z actually believes that they are alone either all or most of the time, or they feel alone. They feel alone, not in physically alone, not with other people. They can be with other people all day long, but they feel totally disconnected. They feel as if they are always separate, okay, always apart. And this is a disturbing trend, because this leads into a number of the anxiety and mental health issues that we see on a precipitous rise in this age group. And there's been all sorts of studies and theories as to why this has happened. A lot of people point towards technology and the speed of life, which certainly, we have access to many computers in our pockets, and speed of life has increased, and the demands, information demands, and how we're pushed and pulled, and the choices that we now have, which are great to have the choices, but now we have them, can all lead to a disassociation and dislocation. And there's a number of people who've done some really good work on that. I have a couple of references if you're interested. Okay, and that really do tend to point to, we've brought this upon ourselves and our children, and I think we have, right. But the reality is, this is where we're at. So we find we have a generation that really does struggle to flourish. We have a generation that really does struggle when asked if they think that they are valuable and worthwhile, and that is borderline criminal in my mind. So what is it worth? What is it worth to have your kids say that? I know, as a parent, for me, I can't even put a price tag on that. That is something, that's all I want. And it's so weird. All you parents, I'm sure you can resonate with this. You had no idea this was going to happen when your children were born, but it seems like the moment they're born, your priorities completely change, and you're focused on what's best for them. Sometimes maybe we're a little too focused on that, and we don't give them enough freedom to fail. And I think I've been guilty of that as a parent as well. But um, we're looking at what's best for them, and we change our approach to most aspects of our lives because of that. And just so you know, that doesn't go away. My children are now in their mid to late 20s. Okay, so 27 and 24, and I still feel that way, and I think I always will. So it's a beautiful thing for us as parents. It really is, as much as it's a difficult thing. All right, so clearly it's invaluable. And here's a little fact, and you may find this surprising. You may find this unusual. Okay. But hopefully, I'll be able to explain it to you in a rational way. So, there's been numerous studies done, but I'm going to point to just one from Springtide Institute, which is pretty recent, about 3 years ago. And Springtide does a lot of work studying adolescence. And by the way, adolescence is now considered to go from age 15 to age 25. So you're a child till age 15, then you become an adolescent. But adolescence has expanded. We've actually, because of the way our culture has evolved and the way we treat our children, where adolescence used to end in late teens, we've now expanded it to 25. And again, that's our fault, parents. We in many ways have done things that have prevented our children from becoming fully independent adults. And our culture has done some things as well, and our economic structure has done some things as well. But again, we just so you know, we're talking about this research. It's looking at that pretty wide-ranging group, 15 through 25, and they compared in this particular study people, adolescents that were religious, okay, which means they actively practiced their faith, versus those that were not. Either they declared they had no faith or just really weren't actively practicing it, and it wasn't a priority in their lives. And what they found specifically with teens, so that I'm doing a subset of the study with teens, that the religious teens were much more likely to say I'm flourishing a lot in all areas. So 1.8 to 2.5 times more likely. So in some cases, you're more than doubling your chances of saying you're flourishing because you not only have faith, but you're actively practicing your faith. And when it came to your life being valuable or worthwhile, again, more than 2 times likely to say, yes, my life is valuable and worthwhile. And studies like this is just, one of many. They're consistent. This has been a finding that you don't hear a lot about in mainstream media because it's not the news they want you to know about. Okay. There's no benefit, there's no consumer benefit to this. But it's these kind of studies have been done for decades, and they always reveal the same thing. Religious people have a religious bent. It doesn't mean you're reading the Bible 10 hours a day and singing worship songs and all that. No, it's you have a faith, you actively practice it at some level, and you're continuing to pursue it as part of your life. It's part of your daily life. It's part of who you are. Okay. And when that is the case, you are going to feel as if you're flourishing more, and you are going to view yourself as being much more valuable and worthwhile, which makes perfect sense because you are indeed a beloved son and daughter of our living God. Okay. So, the question that a lot of people will ask is, well, why? What does religion have to do with any of that? Because all of those things are in the non-religious realm. All those things are in what we call the real world, the world that we have to struggle to survive in and feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and house ourselves and have careers and families and interactions, social interactions, and be part of communities. And why does our religious practice have an impact that's so significant on that part of our lives? And part of the reason is you can't separate one from the other. But I'm going to offer you a theory here, and it's a theory that I believe in. That is something that many have pointed to. But again, it's a theory, it's a theory that says if you do have faith, which means you do believe in our living God, you do believe you are a son and daughter of God, destined for so much more than what we have here in this very short life on earth, that you will have hope. Okay. What that means is really, the tragedies, the difficulties, the obstacles we face in this life. They're real. But with faith, you realize that yes, they're real. They're terrible. They can be traumatic and dramatic. But you can overcome them. You can overcome them because this life isn't what we're meant to live. We are sojourners here, going through a workout, going through an apprenticeship to prepare ourselves for the lives we're intended to live with our living God. So faith breeds hope. You can better handle the tragedies. You can better handle the downturns. You can lean on God. You can lean on our great saints. You can lean on our spiritual mother, Virgin Mary. You can lean on these people that have come before us, that are still living and rooting for us in heaven today, and ask for their help. Now, that help may just come in support and listening. That help may actually sometimes come in miraculous interventions. Who knows? Okay. But the bottom line is you have the hope that there is more to come, and that you do have the support to survive this apprenticeship, this workout, become the master of love you're intended to be. More on that later. And go on to what you were ultimately destined to be. And if you have faith and hope, well, then you live your life a lot differently here on earth. You can then have charity. And in this case, the term charity in a religious sense means love. You can have love. You can make decisions not based on yourself, but based on love. And a lot of people always ask the question, what's the opposite of love? And everybody's hand shoots up and says hate. Hate is not the opposite of love. People that say hate is the opposite of love are thinking love is an emotion. Love is not an emotion. Love isn't a choice. Love is a choice. Love is a choice to will the good of the other. Love is a choice not to like somebody, but to say, you're another beloved son and daughter of God, and I am going to will your good. Now you may treat me like garbage, okay? You may abuse me, you may have hurt me deeply. Now I'm not going to let you continue to do that, but I am going to love you. I am going to wish your good. I'm going to wish for your healing. I'm going to pray for you so that you can finally become the person you were meant to be. Okay? That's what love is, all right? And that means instead of being focused on yourself, what is, and by the way, we all know what it's called when you're focused on yourself, right? That's selfishness. All right. You're focused on others. So the opposite of love is selfishness. Okay. Not hate. Selfishness means you're all about getting what you can get for yourself as fast as you can, regardless of the impact on others. Love is you put others first. Love is you're thinking about the good of others first. And that's what we're called to do. All right. And if you have faith and hope, you can cultivate love, and decisions you make in this life will be vastly different if you have faith and hope. Your ability to cope with tragedy and downfalls and obstacles and disappointments changes dramatically if you have faith and hope. And that is why we get the results out of these studies that we get. All right. So that leads us into why are we here on this planet and this goals of this apprenticeship. I've mentioned that term apprenticeship multiple times. For those who do not know what that is, because I'm realizing that that is something that's falling out of our common language. It used to be that if you were going to be a craftsman, say a metal worker or a carpenter or a plumber or whatever, you would apprentice yourself to a master plumber or carpenter or metal worker or whatever. Okay. And you would study underneath them. You would be their assistant. They would teach you their craft. And over time, you yourself would become a master. And when your apprenticeship was over, and usually it would last a couple of years, you would now go out on your own and you would be a trained master. In the old, late medieval times, there were guilds throughout Europe. So there was the Carpenters Guild and the Plumbers Guild and the Stonemasons Guild and the Metalworkers Guild and, blah, 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 blah. And, this is how you got in. You became an apprentice to a master in the guild, and eventually you graduated to be a master in the guild yourself. Well, this life is just an apprenticeship. Okay. This life is not the real thing. Okay. Got news for you. As important as it is to have a career and be able to support yourself and all that, That's not what it's about. Okay. What it's about is preparing for the next life, this life with God, where we can join in this relationship with the source of our being. God is the source of our being. God is the one thing that will satisfy us. There is nothing else. We will spend our entire life on earth trying different things to be satisfied. Some of them work for very short periods of time, but we always learn the same lesson. When we finally find that thing that seems to make us happy, unless we can get more and more and more of it, it stops working. Okay. And then we have to find something else. Okay. And we drift from thing to thing only to learn the same lesson over and over again, that none of these things are going to do it. It's ultimately God that's going to do it. We want to have our life with God. That is our goal. All right. So, this apprenticeship, we're learning how to live that life. And part of that, God was very clear. You need to learn how to love me as I love you, and you need to learn how to love your neighbors as I love you. So it's really an apprenticeship of love that we are in. So we're here to deepen that relationship with God, learn how to love the others for their good. It's called agape love. Very difficult, very challenging, especially in this me culture that we live in. Agape love seems foreign to that culture, but we need to do that, and that prepares us for eternal life with God. That's all we're really doing. The other things we do, our work, our crafts, our hobbies, these are things that help us along the way. They keep us alive. They may teach us some lessons. They give us the opportunity to interact with others and practice this craft that we're learning. It enables us to build families to practice this craft, things of that nature. So those aren't the primary reasons, and unfortunately, in a materialistic world where our economy is consumer driven and it's all about getting more stuff, and that has been that way really since the Reformation era. um, uh, we lose sight of this. We lose sight of this, and it helps us to lose sight of our faith. And when we lose sight of our faith, we lose that hope. And without that hope, we can no longer make decisions in light of loving the other, and tend to be very selfish. And our world gets very small, and our world can get very lonely. And that is what is indeed happening. So that's why we're here. And in this program, we're going to try to deepen your teens' understanding of the faith so that they can do what they're obligated to do once they do get confirmed, which is to share and defend the faith. And if not realize that as an adult, you should go back and think about that, because you're going to actually commit to sharing and defending the faith as part of the confirmation program and confirmation rite. And if you're not prepared to share and defend the faith, you shouldn't be confirmed, okay? Because you're actually making a commitment. As a matter of fact, most of our sacraments come with a commitment. Most people think of them as they're, I get this thing and this is great. Yeah, you get something. You get God's grace in an abundance, a freely offered grace that we do not deserve. But you then have an obligation, okay, to do something with that grace. And that seems to be something that's lost. So you have to be able to share and defend the faith. And then ideally, inspire your teen to begin a life of intentional discipleship, because confirmation is not Catholic graduation. It is the beginning of your faith journey. Okay. Everything up till now has been preparing you to start this faith journey. What we're going to do in the confirmation program is the final packing and preparation to send you and really begin, you on this path to either following Christ, becoming an intentional disciple, or abandoning Christ. And hopefully we can do the former, not the latter. Okay. But there's challenges. Okay. And for those who've been through the program, you've heard this. So a couple of facts. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version. 13, a few years ago, 13, a very famous study, Going, Going, Gone. This was from St. Mary's Press in 2017. So we're going back 7 years now. Determined that the median age in which Catholic youth completely check out of the faith is 13. That means half check out before 13 and half check out after. Okay. That's what median means. All right. So think about that. Everyone in this program, I believe, or most, are older than 13, which means we probably got half checked out already, okay, if not more. All right. And unfortunately, that number has gone down over the last 7 years. It's now at 12. So 12 is the new median age at which Catholic youth check out of the faith. And 87% of them say there's nothing that will ever bring them back. So think back at the beginning. Faith breeds so many good things in the world in which we live. Yet, most of our youth have checked out before they reach their teens. Okay. I got to say that is criminal that we've allowed this to happen. And it's incredibly sad that it's a reality, right? So some hard facts there. And they give you lots of reasons why they check out. The number one reason is actually my favorite, okay? Disagree with or don't accept church teaching because they think it's nonsensical. The crazy thing about that one is when you dig into it, what they actually point to as church teaching and nonsensical is not church teaching, okay? It is nonsensical, but it's not church teaching. So, I love that first one because that means we have a lot of hope here because most of what people check out of the Catholic faith for has nothing to do with the Catholic faith. It has to do with something they believe is associated with the faith or they point to the faith. But it is actually untrue that it is part of the Catholic faith, that it's part of revelation, as God gave it and Jesus completed it. So I love that one because we could fix that. And that's a lot of our program is geared towards that. Don't believe in one religion. Well, this is sad. This is a result of the Enlightenment, also known as the Endarkenment, where relativism was first introduced at a wide scale, where pluralism became the norm. Okay, and there's reasons for it, and there are good reasons why pluralism. Pluralism means a belief that all religions are the same. Um, there's a reason why that happened. Okay, and I can understand it rationally. All right. There were some atrocities and wars of religion, which just led people down the path of saying, "How about we stop, fighting for our faith because it's ending in disaster? And how about we just treat all faiths as the same?" And they're not. Okay, so this one we have to attack too because all faiths are not the same. There is only one church that was founded by God. That's the Catholic Church. And I'm going to say that again. There is only one faith, one church founded by God, the Catholic Church. He prayed that it would be one. He didn't say he wanted a bunch. He said he wanted to be one. He put in a structure. He guaranteed it would not fail. And he promised the Holy Spirit would protect it and guide it to truth. He only did this with one church. Okay, so anyone who thinks, well, they're all basically the same is wrong. Okay, and we need to fix that. Another big one, family dynamics. Just going to highlight just maybe one or two more here. Family dynamics is one we can attack because what that is a euphemism for, okay, or a nice way of saying is my parents don't practice the faith, so why should I? I get that one. Okay. So parents, you can help here. Okay. You are going to be a reflection of your child's faith. And as a matter of fact, you're going to see in a minute, you are actually incredibly important to your child's religiosity. So again, you can see the others, but we can attack most of these in the program, if not all of them. And there's a reason to attack them because despite the fact that they leave the faith, most of these same people will turn around and say, yeah, and I recognize that religion is at least somewhat important or very important or extremely important. Okay, so 84% recognize the importance of religion despite the fact that they checked out of it. So the intuition, the knowledge built into our hearts that says, man, coming closer to God is indeed important. There is indeed a God. Even if I profess not to believe in him, I kind of know there is, okay? And I know this is important. And by the way, huge chunk of them saying, I'd like to learn more, but unfortunately, they haven't been given the opportunity to learn more. They've had questions and just been told, well, that's what our faith teaches, so just believe it. That's a poor answer to a question. That's not teaching someone about the faith. Our faith is rational. Our faith has been divinely revealed, but it is ultimately rational and perceivable through our human senses. And to not give a good answer to a question is a crime. Okay. So kids want to learn, teens want to learn, and they have hard questions, by the way. Okay. So parents, you need to be prepared to answer those hard questions, and we can help you. Okay. We're going to answer them, but you need to be prepared to answer them. So they are interested in learning more. And you are the key. Okay. You are absolutely 100% the key. God knew this. So, the very famous verse in the book of Deuteronomy means second law, by the way. That's what that word means, if you are wondering. This verse is so famous it has a name. It's called the Shema. And it goes, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. This is such a famous verse. Is a verse that the Jewish people, not just in ancient times, but even to this day, will write down or have written on a small scroll, and they're placed this small scroll in a metal tube that's about 4 inches, 5 inches tall, sometimes a little shorter, maybe about a half an inch in diameter. And that tube will be mounted on the door frame of every door in their home, so that as you go through a door frame, you touch the tube, and kiss your fingers or some other gesture acknowledging that the Lord our God is one Lord. So it's a constant reminder that God is present with us, and that God deserves our love with everything we do in our lives. Okay, it's a really beautiful and pious tradition that I was lucky enough to witness growing up. I grew up in a town that was primarily Jewish, and I was like, "Why do you guys have all these metal things on your doors?" I wasn't the most well-educated Catholic relative to the Jewish religion, but so God tells us, "Hey, you need to be thinking about me," and then He gives an instruction that most people never read. So the very next verse of this really famous verse, the Shema, super famous. You could argue with maybe the most famous Bible verse ever. Okay, it's at least in the top 10. All right. But the very next verse after that, no one seems to know. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. Basically saying, you parents need to teach your children about God, and you need to do it when you're waking up, when you're falling asleep, while you're working, while you're walking, while you're playing, while you're eating. This has got to be your number one priority. So I'm going to say this again. These are the words of God. The words of God says, parents, you need to make the teaching of the faith, the teaching of God's revelation about himself and ourselves, your number one priority. Okay. And I want you to let that sink in. Okay. Because I know I didn't. Okay. I didn't for the longest time. I do now. Okay. But I totally missed this instruction. I don't want you to miss it. The church itself has been talking about this for a while. This is a passage from Lumen Gentium. The family is, so to speak, the domestic church. That's where that term comes from. And a parent should, by their word and example, by what you say and what you do, be the first preachers of the faith. Parents have to be the leaders of the faith. It's not up to the priest. It's not up to catechists at Sunday school. It's not up to religious education teachers in your Catholic school. No, it's parents, number one. Okay. Everybody else is a distant number two. In a little bit, you're going to see how distant a number two we are. Again, from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the role of parents is impossible to provide a substitute for. You cannot be replaced. So you can't outsource religious education to somebody else. It has to be you first. And family catechesis precedes. So it's not that Catholic schools or CCD programs or whatever are not useful, but they are supplemental. They are not designed to be primary. They are designed to reinforce what you as parents are teaching and modeling for your children every day in the home, period. Okay. As a matter of fact, Dr. John Bergsma is a great professor at Franciscan University of Steubenville. I love this quote from him. I'm just going to read the highlighted lines. If parents want to ensure catechesis in the home and model their faith, parents cannot outsource the job of catechesis. I love that. You can't say, I'm going to let the Catholic school do it, or I'm going to let, these guys at Holy Family do it, or no. We're there to support your efforts, but if your efforts are missing, what we do is a complete waste of time. Okay. So it's interesting, I love this line. Mediocre religious education, that's us, can be overcome by the example and teaching of parents. That's you. All right. So I hope parents you're taking this to heart. If you have not been the leader of your faith in your family, if you have not recognized your role and responsibility in teaching the faith, I'm hoping you're starting to realize how important it is. And I hope you go back to those initial stats and realize, wow, if I'm successful in doing this, all right, my child has a significantly better chance of success in life on this planet, period. Okay. So you're looking for something that's going to give your kid a leg up. You want to get him in this extracurricular or this one or this program. I got to be honest with you. Okay. You want to get him a leg up? Make them a faithful Catholic, okay? They will have a huge leg up, one that can't be replaced by the latest, extracurricular activity or whatever, all right? So just want to point that out, okay? So, and the data has been telling us this for years. I'm just going to kind of go through these. There's a study done by a guy named Christian Smith. He was a professor at North Carolina, Chapel Hill, when he started it. He's now at Notre Dame. It's called Soul Searching. He repeats it every few years, and it comes back with the same results every time. Parents are the single most important influence on the religious lives of their children. There is no second. Friends aren't more important. Teachers aren't more important. Priests aren't more important. It is you. Okay. You are the primary influence. Their religiosity will be a mirror image of your religiosity. All right. And Meva, they're going to turn to you first when they have questions. And when you can't answer them, that means you're telling them it's not important. Okay. And they're going to go to you so much more often than anybody else. Look at this data 74% of the time they're going to you, only 8% of the time do they go to a religious expert, a priest, a catechist, someone who's been trained. They're going to you. So you need to be prepared. Without your preparation, you're just going to create someone who's checking out and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of religious, but I don't really follow an organized religion. I'm a nun." Okay, NONE. It means I don't have a religious affiliation. Matter of fact, nuns in the United States are the single largest denomination now. Okay, so there are people that say, "I believe in God, but I'm kind of just not into the religion thing." Yeah, that's a nun. And by the way, what they believe in is a God that's more of a cosmic butler or vending machine than the God of the Christian faith. So not a good place to be. Not a good understanding of what we're doing here on this planet. So again, data is telling us we got some things to do. And CARA, the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, this is out of Georgetown University. It's a great study group out there in DC. They decided to do an interesting study this past year. They said, let's not look at why people leave the faith. Let's look at why people stay. And they focused on those families that were successful in maintaining their children in the faith into their 30s. And what were the commonalities? And they identified 9 common traits. And you can see them on your screen. So prioritizing family time, not letting extracurriculars crowd out family activities and rituals. So yeah, you know what? If you can't have family meals because there's 19 different practices or events going on, cut out some of the practices and events and have family meals. Okay. Healthy affection between parents and children, hugs and discussions of love, very good. A gentler approach to discipline doesn't mean there's not discipline. As a matter of fact, the study goes into great detail saying that all of these families actually had very clear and well enforced rules for their children. However, what they also did was when their children went above and beyond, they made sure that there was praise given for good behavior and not just punishment for breaking the rules. And that is really important, okay, to model the praise for the good. Strong family rituals where you walk and play and pray together. Family religious practice, mass attendance, regular family prayer, prayer at meals, weekly rosary as a family, even if you only do a decade. Awesome. Some other ones. This one I love, teaching good manners. At first, I was like, wow, that's so interesting. Why? Why was that so important? And if you think about it, it does make sense because we're here to learn how to love. And starting, the beginnings of love, wishing the good of the other, is respecting the other. It's respecting the other as a child of God. And if you respect the other as a child of God, you're going to treat them with dignity, and you are going to treat them with manners. So, teaching good manners reinforces who everyone else is, which is a child of God. So, this one does make sense. Encouraging your children to discuss faith struggles and having those discussions with them and not just cutting them off and saying it's just what our faith teaches. That is the worst possible answer ever. It's a cop out. Don't ever say it. Okay. It's a huge mistake. All right. We need to discuss the faith challenges, and there's many in today's social environment. You're going to see that our faith conflicts with the majority normative thinking on a number of social issues. That's okay. All right. Most people at one point supported slavery, the beating of your wife, and not having women vote. So the majority isn't always right, folks. And if you think it is, that's a huge mistake, and it's a very limited view of even recent history. All right. So majority is not right. Okay. Um, the truth is right, and you want to explore the truth. So having those struggles, discussed, really important. And then these last two I really love, and it just seems to make so much sense. I just wish someone had told me this earlier. Families that regularly discuss ways to better take care of each other. Do you have a weekly or biweekly discussion? Say, hey, what do you need? How can we better support you? And what do you need? How can we better support you? And then taking it to the next step, the last one, families that regularly discuss way they can care for others. Hey, that family down the street is really struggling. How can we best help them? So again, these make sense in light of love. You're actively practicing love, first for each other in your family group, and then for others in your community. And that's what this life is about. It's an apprenticeship of love. So this study actually is just reinforcing more and more of what we've always known about our faith and what's important and what's not. But I've posted the whole study out on Basecamp. Hopefully you can check it out. All right, let me have a sip of coffee. We're talking about the program. By the way, I encourage you to go back and review this. This obviously will be posted, and the slides will be posted as well. Um, spend some time meditating on some of this data, right? And thinking about it, what it means for your faith, and the faith of your families, because this is critically important. The data at the onset demonstrates how important it is. Don't miss this opportunity. Program overview. All right, so there's things you have to do. First off, you have to come to all of our sessions. Now, what we've done is at the end of every year, we poll the people in our programs, and we get some really good feedback, a lot of it very constructive, and we make changes as a result of that feedback. And we had more sessions, more mandatory sessions. It's tough. It's tough in this world in which we live in, where you are pulled in 19 different directions. So we trimmed it a little bit. The way we trimmed it was by making some sessions virtual only. All right. We're also giving you a little bit of a break. All right. So we want you here at every session. If you can't make a session, you have to make it up. If you miss more than 3, you're dropped from the program. Okay. So, but if you miss, doesn't mean you get to just miss. You still have to make it up. But I am going to allow you to miss one, and not make it up. So you do get one free pass. You get a total of 3 passes, but those other 2 have to be made up. Beyond 3, it's done. So it's only 13 sessions, all right? And 3 is done. And I'm telling you that, and I'm repeating it because I don't want people to say I didn't know. Okay. I'm telling you, I will give you warnings. Once you miss 2, I'm like, one more and it's over. Okay. So what we're going to do to replace some of the sessions that we removed was we've taken some of those sessions and pre-recorded them, as we do all our sessions, but we pre-recorded them in a certain format, so that you can pick 2 of the 6, and you get to choose each year which 2 you do. We may change them from year to year, probably will. Culture changes, we'll change those. But you have to pick two to watch and reflect on. You need to go to Mass. You need to actively participate in Mass every Sunday and Holy Day of Obligation. And if you're not doing that, I don't know why you're in this program. I got to be honest with you. Okay. Mass is where we encounter our living God. This program is all about growing closer to our living God. If you're not going to participate in the place where you can most easily encounter our living God, I'm not sure how focused you are on building a relationship with Him. Okay. Seems like you're not focused on it at all. Okay. Just being brutally honest. Okay. And you want to debate that, I'll debate it with you till you're blue in the face. Okay. There's a reason why it's a precept of the church that you participate in Mass every Sunday and Holy Day of Obligation. Okay. It's not there for the church. The church doesn't get anything out of it. It's there for you, okay, to come closer to your living God. So you got to do that. Monthly Mass journaling. So this was also some feedback from last year. So the last couple of years, we've had people check in for Mass every week. And we've tried different techniques, and all of them have been mildly effective and slightly annoying. Okay. So we're gonna pull back a little bit. All right. We're gonna encourage you to go to Mass, and we're not gonna be Mass police for you. But we are going to ask you to once a month provide a fairly detailed journaling of your Mass experience. And it has to be handed in. It's in the real world, physical. So we're getting away from the online check-in service that we used. And it's only once out of the month, okay, as opposed to every week. But it is going to be a little bit more detailed. So that's the compromise we've made. We're not going to be the Mass police, right? Although I would encourage you to really consider why you're in this program if you're not participating in Mass weekly. But we do want once a month a real good reflection on the Mass. So you're going to be doing Mass journals, and we'll provide you a new one each month. We also got rid of the writing down of the prayers. I know this is something, knowing your prayers is important. I get it. What we realized with the forcing people to write them down is it became so difficult, so much work, that I think it was having the secondary effect of creating some spite. Okay. Don't want to do that. So now we're going to change our focus a little bit, and we're going to move into, instead of the 10 prayers, you get to pick 10 Bible verses, identify your top 10, and explain why, okay, for each one. All right. So this isn't just rip off 10 Bible verses and you're done. This is, no, why is it meaningful to you? And we're going to read these. And if, we may hand it back and say, seriously, come on. Okay. 10 Bible verses and why. You have to participate in one of the retreats. You have to do your 20 Christian service hours. This is typical of all programs in the Diocese of Orange. That's a diocesan requirement. There is a midterm and a final. You have to average 80% across the two. They're both 50 questions, multiple choice. Most people do really well. They are open everything, open book, open internet, whatever you want. Be careful about using your family. What we have found is when people rely on what their family think the right answer is, they often get the wrong answer. So please use our materials. Just kind of shows you how little people do know about our faith. But you do have to get an 80% across the two. We have to do the mandatory safe environment training. This is training on abuse and how to recognize it, avoid it, report it, survive it. This is again a diocesan requirement that is mandatory. Parents, you must come and participate in at least 6 of the sessions. So there's 13. You get to pick 6 that you're going to come to and participate. And when the young people are taken into their small groups following the catechesis, you too will be taken into a group of parents for a separate small group discussion. And that's done in a separate room at that point. So we keep you separate. We don't want to embarrass you or your kids, but we do want you to engage in some discussion. So it's 6, you get to pick, and you will sign in. Year 1, you have to identify your patron saint. Everyone who gets confirmed gets confirmed in the name of a patron saint. So we have you define them and write an essay, and there's instructions, and I handed them out at the meetings. They're on Basecamp. There's a sample. It's on Basecamp. It's really hard for you not to do this well. And since this wasn't a year one requirement last year, it used to be a year two requirement. You year two folks, guess what? You need to do it too. Hey, so everyone's doing this year. Next year will just be the year one, folks. Year two, you also have the sponsor form. Got to find your sponsor and get the sponsor form to us. And you have the bishop letter. Again, bishop letter, very clear instructions with a written example already out there. I physically handed them to anyone who came to these meetings. There's no excuse for not doing this right. These things need to be turned in the real world. You will sign in. Okay, so some guidelines, program guidelines. You're going to sign in. You're going to do that in your small group. So your small group leader will keep a sign-in book. You will sign in with your small group leader, which means you need to know who your small group leader is and who your small group is. First session, we will post that on the wall. Don't forget it. Write it down. Okay. You will sign in. You will come dressed appropriately. This is a sacred space that we conduct our classes in. If you were, embarrassed to be wearing what you're wearing, if Jesus showed up, well, guess what? He's there. So dress for Jesus. A good rule of thumb is if you don't want anyone to touch it, then no one should be able to see it. And if you really think about that rule, that will help you figure out what's appropriate attire for our sessions. No phones. If you are caught using a phone during our session, you will be asked to leave immediately. No second chances. Making it really clear. Do not use the phone during the session. I don't care if you have it on your person, okay? And we're not stupid, right? So we know, people, especially young ladies, and sometimes young men who have long hair, will try to pull their hair down over their ears and have their earbuds in. And yeah, we look for that. Okay, so we have a couple of people that will be circling from behind. It always gets caught. So don't be stupid. Just no phones during class, period. First time, you're immediately kicked out of the class. Your parents must come pick you up at that moment. Second time, you're kicked out of the program. I'm not joking around. This is the most annoying thing ever. Just leave them at home if you're too tempted. Okay. Language. We're in a sacred space. I should say no more. Okay. Participation. We want you to engage. Okay. We're going to be asking questions. We're going to be having discussion. You're here. You're breathing. Engage. Okay. We need you to participate. Otherwise, we're not sure you are adequately prepared to receive the sacrament. And, lead by example, help others engage. Some people are shy or don't really know how to do, what we're asking them to do. Well, then be a leader, be a servant leader for those others in your group and show them and encourage them. Some of you are excellent at that. Some teens are just fantastic. Well, use your talents. Okay. Set an example. Be an active listener. When someone else is speaking, be focused on them. Now they'll be, just look at them, absorb it, and absorb with compassion. Sometimes our discussions get quite emotional, okay, because sometimes we are running on some very close to the vest topics that really touch us in the world in which we live. And so you need to be actively listening, but with compassion. And certainly ask lots of questions. And if you have a question that really is either not appropriate or you don't feel comfortable asking out loud, then use the blue bucket. There's a blue bucket on the table in the back. You can write on a piece of paper that's back there. You pop it in the blue bucket. We respond to those in writing. We post them on Basecamp and on our parish website. So you will get an answer, okay? And this way you can ask something anonymously. And you can also do this. There's a QR code that we publish in our bulletin every week for the same purpose. We get a number of questions from parishioners. Feel free. And you can always stop in and see Alan and I. You can call us, you can email us, you can text us, contact us on Basecamp. If you want to just chat through a bunch of questions, love to do that. Get a cup of coffee and we're chat. Okay. And this goes for you parents as well. Okay. We are a resource for your family. Use us. Okay. That's what we're here for. All right. We can help you. We can guide you. If we can't give you the answer immediately, we will get it for you. Okay. That's our commitment. So take advantage of that. Our class format, pretty simple. Start at 5:15. We'll have a little bit of fun at the beginning. some opening prayers. We call them icebreakers, but they're more of just, ways to kind of enter into our faith while having a little fun and getting to know each other. Then we're going to do the teaching on the topic of the day. You have the schedule, you know what we're going to be talking about each day. We're going to go into small group discussion where we discuss 3 to 5 reflection questions. And then we close, wrap up, talk about what's coming up, answer any last minute questions and get you out of there at 7. So that is our class format. You know what to expect. We will honor these times. We ask you to honor them as well. Little bit on retreats. So, we've made a decision this year. We're going to do our retreats in house, and primarily because it just becomes so cost prohibitive to go to an offsite location where it used to be, several $1,000s for facility rental. We're now getting up to $15,000, $18,000 for facility rental for a group of our size. And that just is wasteful, quite frankly. It's sucking up the overwhelming majority of our budget, okay, with no real return other than we get to go someplace. And so what we're going to do is we're going to funnel that money back into the retreat itself. Better speakers, better music, better activities, better food, okay? And make the retreat experience very powerful by refunneling some of those resources back to the retreat itself, as opposed to putting it in the pocket of somebody for really what is, in most cases, a fairly substandard sleeping arrangement and not the best meeting spaces. So we have better meeting spaces, as limited as they are at Holy Family. We have great access then to the church and adoration and things of that nature. Why not take advantage of the fact that we have sacred space and that we have meeting space and that you all have homes with comfy beds, and stop pretending that the going away is as mystical as we once thought it was. I think in this day and age, when so many people are traveling so regularly, the going away portion is not nearly as important as it was. And we want to try this year to really reformat and put our money in the place that we think it's going to give us the best bang for the buck. You should keep up to date with what's going on with not just our program, but with all our programs. So we have the Faith Formation Board, Holy Family Faith Formation. You see it there on the left. It's right outside the church. You can't miss it. You walk by it to get into the church, okay? We update that board every Wednesday afternoon. So there's always new content on there about what events are happening. The gospel is up there. Our saints for the week are up there. We put a blue bucket question up there each week. Different things. Today, I think we have the survey is available. By the way, the literature boxes outside each of the side doors, the north and south transept doors, those are the side doors to the church that 95% of you enter in and exit from. Look at what's in those boxes. There's good stuff in there, okay? Our bulletin is always there. But there's other good stuff in there that you should check out and grab. Okay, from time to time about our other faith formation programs or things going on in and around the parish. And then in the virtual world, we have Basecamp for those returning. You're familiar with Basecamp. For those of you who've never heard of this before, don't worry about it. It's easy. Okay, you're going to get an email inviting you in to complete your account. That email will tell you how to download the app. You can also get it on a web browser. But we store everything out there. We put all of our documents out there, all of our references. We have message board that identifies service hour opportunities. This is a good thing to get connected to. I will say and absolutely recommend that the first thing you do is click on your avatar in the upper right. See my little head up there in the upper right of the screen, and change your notification settings, because it wants to notify you about everything and you will get a gazillion emails. You don't want that, okay? So turn your email notification off, turn your number alerts on, so that when you open the app, you see, oh, there's some new stuff, and you can check out what you want to check out, and you're not inundated with emails. So keep up to date in the virtual world and the real world. And with that, hopefully, any questions you have, you can track down Alan or I. We'd love to answer them. We look forward to working with you this year. Hopefully some of this data, which I really wanted to get to you, is sunk in and you take it to heart. And if not, then I really want you to think about why you're in the program, because, we want you in the program. We want you to grow closer to God. But if you're doing it just to check off a box, don't waste your time. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's not going to be ultimately good for you. So anyway, I don't think that's the case the majority of the time. I think you can get massive amounts out of this for as a family, and I hope you're engaged in that and want that. We want that for you with all our hearts. And with that, let's end in prayer. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for another year of working with families and deepening our faith along with theirs. Just a great gift, a great opportunity to be able to share the faith with people, to be able to help them, because through helping them, we ourselves grow stronger and closer to you. We ask that you give us all the grace we need to open our hearts and minds and work together and be successful in helping these teens um, begin their faith journey and draw to you as they are intended to be drawn. We ask this in your holy name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, folks. See you live soon. Take care.